Welcome, friends, to Reality Test. What is reality testing, you may ask? Well, it's something we all do every day, maybe with our loved ones over dinner, with coworkers at the water cooler, etc., when we check our subjective or personal emotions, thoughts, and so forth against objective or sort of more agreed upon fact-based reality. Although, because Dr. Ray and I, Dr. Kay, are social constructionists, we don't actually believe there's one true objective reality, but rather our own personal versions of it constructed in the context of relationships. But you get the idea. So here in Reality Test, we're going to be testing the castmate realities and the producer antics of our favorite reality TV shows against what we know as licensed psychologists about the reality out here, off of our TVs. We hope you'll join us as we attempt to reality test. Listen, y'all, we have a lengthy version of our disclaimer in the show description text, also in our old episodes, but we do ethically need to at least include part of it at the start of each episode. So here's our briefest version of the disclaimer. If you've heard it before, you can skip ahead 30 seconds, or for the old episodes, 2 minutes. So although we're licensed psychologists, psychotherapists, supervisors in the context of our professional roles, we are not acting as therapists in the context of this pod, neither for you nor for the reality castmates we discuss. We will give our opinions as our whole human selves, albeit supported by our psychological knowledge, and we will talk about diagnoses rather than assigning them, as we cannot ethically assign diagnoses without formal psych assessment. But both the opinions and diagnoses we discuss might easily be erroneous, as we don't personally know the folks in reality TV shows. That's it. Thanks, y'all. Now check out our campy theme song.
Are you feeling stressed? Your head's all messed? Well, let's forget all the rest. Fuck it, we're blessed. Cause it's time to talk reality test. Come with us. Let's reality test. Welcome to Reality Test. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Dr. Kay. Feel free to check in and take a seat wherever you like.
So,
all right.
Shall we transition to our traitors?
That's
that Scottish accent. I nailed it, right?
You did. You did
Best
beautifully.
I thought so.
That wasn't meant to be Scottish, by the way. I don't even know what that was, British or something, but you did beautifully for sure.
It.
Thank you so much. Okay, fabulous. So we're going to do a recap of the traitors. And shall we begin? Do you want to go first? The first page?
Yes, I'll do the starting at follow up on the traitors in the turret. So Carolyn immediately addresses the Danielle of it all. Danielle apologizes and swears to start out fresh without putting Carolyn's name out there. Carolyn then makes a half joke about only wanting to kill the two of them, which I thought was kind of funny. Danielle calls a ceasefire, which is interesting language. But I see you have a segment here.
I did. And then when I went to go do my segments, I couldn't remember what I meant by that. So I think that's the only one where I put it before I wrote it down. So I think all the rest of them will not be false. But I think that one is, oh, you know what? I think I then decided what it is related to, which is the thing about Carolyn and Danielle that I brought up. Oh, what the fuck? And then I thought I had it, and then now I don't see it at all. So you know what? Fuck them. We're going to, if I think of it later, I'll think of it later, but I do not actually have anything right in this moment. So we're moving on.
Moving on, indeed. At the breakfast, Dylan is jazzed on working with Boston Rob. He is obsessed with Boston Rob, as we see. He has a little crush on him. But honestly, I'll talk about Sierra and Rob later. I get it. The two of them had mad chemistry. I was getting a little hot and bothered watching the two of them together. I'm like, this is working for me. I know he's married.
You get that part of him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the daddy of it
wow.
all.
Yeah, it was kind of it was just something. I was like, damn, I wish they could get together. Someone who actually would appreciate Sierra and not be a little fucking douchebag.
She does need a man, she does. She needs someone who's past that era, who's ready to really actually put her first and not be caring about the fame and not be caring about multiple women. She needs someone like that for sure, who's done those days, who's had those days come and gone,
Yep. I was kind of obsessed with their dynamic. I was a little embarrassing for myself.
That's cute. I was wow. I like that. No, I get it.
Cute together. I was like,
yeah,
wow.
He definitely is if you're a daddy image, if that's if that's he is that to a T.
They were working. So post-breakfast scheming, Sandoval is going for Dolores. First talking about it with Brittany and then with Derek and Wes. He's been doing a lot, our friend Tom Sandoval.
People are like literally telling him to shut the fuck up. Like they're like, stop talking. You're taking up air and we don't need it.
Yeah. Oh, it almost makes me feel bad for him. Later on, I did feel a little happy for him, but I think I also have to check that. I wonder if editing is working on me because he was so excited when he was right.
I found it off-putting. That's so funny. I like that you were happy for him, but I was like, ugh, it's not because of you, dude. Like he took so much credit for it. I don't know.
I think it made me feel, I think he's felt so ostracized by the media, by people, that I'm like, oh man, this meant that much to you. That's kind of sad sort of thing. But
that's actually how I made it into a segment, is basically along those lines. Like I did that for Your Psyche is Showing, and we'll come back to that. But yeah, exactly. It does, that part of it I feel for him about, but like the way that he like, I don't know, there's just, it's a both and for me, but I do feel for him about the immense amount of ostracization. I think he'll be fine though. His way of taking care of his ego is strong. Oh.
This is very true. I think he's moved on. You're absolutely right. And I think now it is your turn.
Okay, fabulous. So Derek, so Tom Sandoval is like comes into the room where Derek and Wes are speaking, and literally Derek just turns to Sandoval and was like, "Do you mind like going? I want to talk alone to Wes." And rather than Sandoval seeing that as like suspicious in any way, he's like, "Sure, I'll watch out." So he like goes outside of the door, keeps a watch out. So then Derek floats to Wes, "Let's go for Rob." Brittany tells Carolyn that she'd heard that Carolyn had said Brittany's name. And Carolyn was like, what the fuck? Like, I never said Brittany's name. So she immediately knew it was Danielle who said that, because she's already been hearing a little bit about Danielle saying her name. So then we go into the challenge. There's green, red, and yellow teams. They basically needed to get enough explosives to blow up a traitor effigy in time. And each team will get a shield if they do that or whatever at a certain amount of time. And then they have to like decide who gets the shield, but they do this separately, so they don't have to tell the other teams who got the shield on their team. They all seem to have randomly ended up playing rock, paper, scissors, which I was like, oh, that's funny. They're like all doing that to decide who gets it, even though I felt like there were certain times where it was like, that is a good argument. Like someone, I think it might have been Derek or somebody, was like, I actually like need this, and like that person does not need this. And I thought that was a good point. But anyway, he didn't necessarily get it. So they all did it in time, which was like a big win, like big boost to energy, because they blew up the effigy just barely in time. Although, you wonder how much of that is production. Actually, I've heard that from people on the Traitors, that they make it like just barely in time purposely, but that's fun. So they felt good about that. And then we see also Carolyn talking to Gabby about someone setting her up. And then Gabby discloses that it's Danielle who's sort of been setting up Carolyn, or like she knows that she's been talking about Carolyn. So I have a segment here, which is that, this is a bonus. I gave myself something we've mentioned before, even though that's not a segment on our thing, because I had mentioned before when we heard that Chriselle was saying to Bob the drag queen that Carolyn's batshit crazy. When I first watched it, I thought it was Gabby, so I had to go back to rewatch it, because I was like, no way Gabby says that about Carolyn. I was like, not a chance in hell she would say that about Carolyn. And we hadn't seen that they were friends yet, but I was just like positive that's not how she would address that with Carolyn. And like, sure enough, they are friends. She does love Carolyn, and they are 100% good with each other. And I'm so happy, because that like makes sense to me. And I like that. I love how Carolyn was like, Gabby gets me, because Gabby does. Like, she's like so much more, she's like so aware of mental health stuff, and what a delight.
I'm so glad they're friends too. Yeah. And kind of, I can actually think their energies, seeing them together, they were another couple. I was like, I love this.
Yes. They're so cute together.
There were so many cute couples. Even fucking what's his face and
Sam and Ivar.
They were kind of adorable. I was like, this is so cute. I was
the two of them laughing with the bugs falling on their face and their heads.
Oh,
that was like God. The best scene. I loved it.
I'm like, so do you two just love each other? It was really cute.
It was so cute. I loved them. That's the most personality we've seen out of Sam, and I'm super into it.
He's very low key. I kind of like him more than I thought I would.
Yep, I'm into it. I get it, Britney Spears.
Yeah, good on you, Brit.
Yeah, go Brit. So now we're on to post-breakfast scheming. Why would we be post-breakfast scheming? Post-challenge. I think I meant to say that. That's what that meant. Post-challenge. I don't need to correct that. That's silly. Anyway, we know what it is. So Wes tells Dolores, that Sandoval floated her name. So he like turned around and was like, oh, hey, what the heck? Just so you know, Sandoval floated your name. Dolo says, I hate to say it. She says to us directly, which I thought was funny, so I wrote it down. But she said to us in testimonial, I hate to say it, I don't think Tom had a lot of attention in his younger years. And I think that was really like actually empathetic way of putting it. Like she's sort of saying like, it's not that she's like, this guy's annoying or like whatever. She's like able to say like, he sort of seems thirsty for attention, but she puts it in a lot nicer way. And it's true, right? Like obviously some of this is related to how he grew up because he has been in LA trying to be a model or in a band or an actor for many years. Like there is a part of him that needs a validation from external sources. And I'm with it. So then Rob says to Sandoval and Brittany, people are saying Wes is putting a lot of names out. Whatever, I guess is a way to like limit the fact that it was probably also about him. Carolyn said to Dolores, Danielle is putting my name out everywhere. So it was interesting because a lot of the people that would come to Carolyn to talk about what Danielle was saying about her were friends of Carolyn's and were telling Carolyn to protect her, but were also friends of Danielle. Like Danielle's telling them to begin with because they're friends of Danielle's too. So it was clear that they have like the same circle of friends, but they all prefer Carolyn because they all told Carolyn.
Yep.
That's so funny. We see Wes start to sway people to go for Rob. And Brittany hears about it and comes to Derek. And she says that she's suspicious of Wes. Instead of going with Wes against Rob, she says to Derek, I'm worried about Wes. Like something's weird about it. He's going for Rob. And Derek was like, huh. Like he clocks that she's trying to protect Rob. She straight up asks Derek if he's going for Rob. And he says no. And then he tells us he's suspicious and wonders if she's a traitor because clearly she's trying to protect Rob. And he's sure that Rob's a traitor. Yeah. Correctly. So then we end up at the round table where Derek is like clearly high on the idea of going for Rob. So oh my God, the Dolo and Tom of it all. So this is the time where Derek literally told Tom to wrap it up because Tom decides he's like, I have something really important and starts like going after Dolores. And like literally everyone else is like, shut your mouth. It's not Dolores. And then Dolores even says to him, I don't want you to be nervous because I don't think any of it will make sense. So I'm okay with it. Like go for it. Basically, which is so funny. I was like, get it. And he said the biggest red flag is that she's not asking questions. Yeah, she's so funny. He's like, the biggest red flag is she's not asking questions. And she's like, why? Well, maybe I'm just not asking questions of you. Like, I don't care what you think. Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. Great point. Mm-hmm. I also think she doesn't necessarily know how to play the game. So like, whatever. Who cares if she's not asking questions? Yeah. And then someone said like a bad faithful is worse than a traitor. I think she said that about Tom having heard it from someone else, but that a bad faithful is worse than a traitor, which he is definitely a bad faithful. I think that's the point, right? Like everyone can tell he's a faithful, but no one trusts him because he's just like whatever, annoying. You know, he has like weird data points. Yeah. So finally Derek just like literally turns and is like, Tom, wrap it up. He's like ready to just change gears. And they're filming for hours at the round table, like hours and hours and hours. So what we see is only, what we see is only like a snippet of what happens there. And so every moment is like particularly chosen for a reason, which I always try to remember. Like, you know, like every single line that we hear during the round table was used for us to get a sense of somebody for some reason. So, yeah. So Derek literally, even though they have tons of time at the round table, he still was like, stop wasting our time, which I think is funny. Mm-hmm. And then Derek recounts that Bob the drag queen was, so I actually thought this was really strong. I had a segment here because I think his speech was like really, really, really good. Like I thought that Derek had just a really good speech made, you know what I mean? He like did a really good job saying what he said, even though he didn't end up getting it. I still think that like, you know, he didn't get his way. He didn't get Rob out. I put this as a game tactic or strategy using a psychological concept because even though Derek's speech that we both will go on to describe now, even though his speech was like so damn near flawless, he still did not get Rob out. And it's mostly because most of the women voted to keep Rob. And so this comes back to what you were saying about getting his vibe with Sierra. So the psychological concept that I think is being used is internal working models, because our internal working models of like our dads and that we want to impress our dads, and therefore like that maps onto how we are today, means that like Rob is like pulling for our dad energy and we want to impress him as if he's like our dad. Obviously it's subconscious, but then also like, you know, Oedipus complex and the, you know, Electra complex, there's like stuff that comes up for us too that can get sexualized around it, and like wanting to impress him. Also for women, we're taught that like how to impress a guy includes using our bodies and sexuality, and so that gets wrapped up in it too. But yeah, like, so our daddy stuff gets pulled by Rob because he's kind of like withholding and quiet, and also like, you know, everybody wants to impress him. So I think that he really had going for him whether he liked it or not. You know, I don't think it was necessarily intentional, but he had going for him the internal working model stuff around dad stuff, because all of the women were like, nah, we're keeping Rob. Even Brittany like put herself sort of in jeopardy by trying to get Dylan to keep Rob because she was so sure Rob was not a traitor. Which, yeah.
For literally no reason. That is so interesting because it was so many people and Dylan. So Dylan clearly has some daddy stuff
too. Exactly. Which also could be stuff about Zach. It could be his older brother, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know. Well, yeah, he definitely has some guy stuff, some withholding guy stuff. It's really cute. He's like honestly so endearing about it. But
he's really sweet.
Yeah. I liked what Derek said, where he said, you get the most information out of when you successfully get a traitor. And he's like, so just remember that when Bob the drag queen got booted, Rob came out hard against him. And he's like, and Bob the drag queen could have voted for Nikki, who was on the table, but he voted for Rob. So like, there's something there. Dead on, Derek. Yeah. And like, very well put, very clear. So the fact he didn't succeed like said a lot, but yeah. So tell us more about it.
Yes. Oh, I think that's your seg.
Oh, I did that seg. I'm saying your turn to talk.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're good.
Woof.
Right here.
I see. So someone who said this. So today, Rob should have been gone, but instead someone who suggested you could pull this off is evicted.
Yeah, that was still Derek. Like, Derek was basically saying, like, today is another reason that Rob is definitely a traitor, because he should have been gone, but instead someone who mentioned him is gone. Yeah.
Yes. And I think you guys made him a monster when you denied him access, and I think this guy behind me turned him into a traitor. Dead on.
That was so well put.
Rob, yeah. Boston Rob then comes for Wes, and Wes threatens everyone. Wes, whoa, he... if producers were psychologists, I had a couple things around Wes's behavior here. I also think it would have been good to hear more testimonials for the women about how they felt about the way Wes was acting, because clearly they had been picking up on something from him for a while with the way, I can't remember who said it, but was like, you're kind of aggressive, you're kind of this, you're kind of that. So I would have been interested to hear more about what the women were thinking about him, because I think it was just like the nail in his coffin, if you will, when he was like vaguely threatening and then kind of just a dick.
Directly. Yeah. And then he was like, if you go for me, I'm coming for you. Like, if you vote for me, I'm coming for you. He literally said, I'm coming for you 5, or like, you 5 better watch out. And then it was like, thank God Sierra was like, you're out, bitch. Like, I was so glad. I put same thing, but not that segment. I also highlighted this as a sloppy play. Like, I think it was sloppy of Wes to be threatening people, because like, of course they're going to want to get you out. But I also agree that you're right. Like, even more, it's almost like a sociopolitical issue too, which I actually don't even think I ended up doing. So maybe this will also be my sociopolitical thing, that there's like real like use of his masculine power to like make women insecure in like a way that he's not even aware of, really. Like, there's definite like patriarchal vibes in the way he treats women. And this was wildly inappropriate.
Yeah. It was like that on steroids for whatever reason. It just... Yeah, I had thought, and I very much trust your judgment on this, that he's learned a lot and gotten better at this over the years. So I was kind of surprised to see him be that big of a dick. I'm like, maybe he was stressed or jet lagged or just not thinking clearly. I don't know. But
no, he definitely still does shit like this. Like, this is something he does on the challenge that he can get away with. Because on the challenge, they do that. Like, on the challenge, they're like, you better not come for me unless you're going to get me. Like, they talk like that to each other, like, regardless of gender. Yeah. Sure. So, like, he was pulling from the challenge and just didn't understand that was the wrong game for that. But yeah, he definitely still has gotten better, and he definitely still has those patriarchal vibes. He just does. Like, he's going to forever, you know.
It's just his energy kind of thing. But yeah,
deeply embedded.
Yeah, but no, the women were backing Boston Rob. I think your take on that is so good. The very different patriarchal thing that he pulls for in people. Yep. Him and Sierra, I'm not over it. It was, they were great together. It was cute.
Yeah, they were super cute.
And then Karen comes for Danielle directly, which, like, I didn't hate that move. No. I was a little nervous about it, but I was like, okay, like, You do it.
I felt bad for Carolyn because it was like kind of wrong timing because there was so much going on about the other stuff going on. So I felt bad for her that it didn't land, but I understood too. Yeah.
Why she wanted to bring it up. She said, like, I found an ally in Danielle until recently. I've had several people approach me and say Danielle is creating lies and chaos. Derek also tries to get Dylan to vote against Rob, but Brittany intervenes, shaking her head. And Derek clocked that. And yeah, Brittany's weird defense of Rob for really no reason. It's kind of bizarre.
Daddy stuff. Mm-hmm.
And like I saw it with Chriselle and him, and I was but I've never even seen Rob and Brittany talk. It's not even sticking out to me. So it's a weird sort of thing.
Daddy stuff.
Yep. Poor Brittany and her daddy, unresolved daddy stuff that's probably going to get her kicked off of the show because people think she's a traitor now.
Do they, though? Because I actually thought she did a great job defending herself. Like, everyone believed her. Even though they wanted to save Rob, they still couldn't vote for her because they were like, she's clearly not a traitor. Kind of wild.
I do wonder if Dylan now will be like, what's his face? Derek was right about this one. So maybe he's right about that one, too. And if he'll, forge a campaign for her. But we shall see.
Yep. That could flip because he voted for neither because he's like, I don't think either of them are. But you're right that if he reflects on it, given that he feels very disoriented because he was clearly wrong about Rob.
He was a little in love with our boy Rob.
So cute.
Yeah. So for votes for Boston Rob, Derek, Wes, Danielle, Gabby, and Tom. Carolyn voted for Danielle. You go, Carolyn. And then Wes, Dylan, Sam, Ivar, Rob, Brittany, Chriselle, Sierra, and Dolores voted for Tom Sandoval. Wes, on the way out, total dick. Wes said, quantitatively, I'm the biggest winner here. You all are chess pieces on a board. I have no idea who killed them because I'm a faithful fuck all you guys. I had a your psyche is showing here thing. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of object relations stuff for me where he doesn't see them as people, which I think also is being on the challenge for so long. But I do think there's a sense that I get from him of devaluing people in a way that might be something to work on. You all are chess pieces on a board. Right. I think how people leave actually says a lot about them. Yeah. And I get
when they can be the most honest.
Yeah. And actually, I thought the person who leaves in the next episode, who we won't spoil, I guess, just yet, was very likable in the way they left. But Wes Same. And what's the other person who
Derek
was a dick when they
Derek got murdered.
Derek.
So
the one we talked Wells.
Oh, Wells. Yeah. Wells was very hurt and clearly lashed out with his,
Yes, it is a little bit wow, okay. So I had a segment there, but
it's sore losing. In response to Wes going out, Derek took that moment to say to everybody, our other traitors are voting too, suggesting that some of the people who voted to keep Rob are also traitors. But actually it turned out no, because Carolyn voted for Danielle, not Rob. I mean, not Wes. And Danielle didn't vote for Wes either. So both of the other traitors that are not Rob did not vote to get Wes out, which I just thought was kind of funny that that's the case. But his point was clearly that he was talking about the fact that Brittany and Rob voted for Wes because they both did. So we later figured that out because he says to Dylan about it. So now we're at the post roundtable scheming and Brittany runs at Derek and is like, I want to yell at you. You're a scumbag liar, which was shots fired. And Derek said, well, suddenly you've been hanging out with Rob lately. Maybe it's because you're a traitor. And she goes, are you serious? And he says well, Wes buried himself. I was beating Rob in there. It's not rocket science, And then Britt said to us directly, Derek point blank lied to my face, but he's mad at me. What kind of man logic is this? Which is the one that I did put as my sociopolitical, where it's sort of this idea that is actually an experience that can happen in power dynamics, and in the case of men and women, that puts men in the power dynamic. But suddenly it can sort of get turned back around on us, just like the Matt and Rachel Kirkconnell stuff. So that was funny and true. And then Derek comes to Dylan. He convinces him, or tries to, about Rob. But we can tell that Dylan's like not gonna go because he says the one thing he's able to say, which is that he says about Brittany. So Derek says to Dylan, I think Rob is a traitor and I think Brittany's a traitor. I still trust you 100%, but there's something you need to know. And he says like this such and such about Rob, and then he says such and such about Brittany, and Dylan says to him, she has been flying below the radar, which even that is like not quite against Brittany either. So it's clearly he's like doesn't want to agree, but like doesn't want to disagree and like piss off Derek. So he like says something, the one true thing he can sort of say, or like the one objective fact he can say. But yeah, I see you have a segment.
Yeah, I just talked about the psychological construct that is impacting someone's gameplay. And I just talking about Dylan's like halo effect for Boston Rob, where he likes him so much because of how he's seen him in the past on Survivor and stuff, that he is unwilling to see all these parts of Boston Rob that make it clear that he's probably a traitor. Like how many times does Boston Rob have to directly like take people out before they finally believe he's a traitor? It's hilarious. But yeah, exactly. Dylan was just unwilling to see it.
Right. And I feel like automatically through the halo effect, you're also talking about confirmation bias. Like once he sees him as not a traitor, he sees every sign to believe he's not a traitor.
Right.
More strongly than signs that he is a traitor. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love it. So then Derek straight up says to Dylan, I'm going to get murdered tonight. And then Rob tomorrow is going to see they're framing me. Like literally word for word says what's going to happen.
Happened.
Yep.
And then it happened.
Uh-huh. Word for word happens. So then we end the episode, as we do every episode, with part 1 of the Traitors Turret. And Rob says to everybody, the other women, I thought yesterday we had an agreement not to go after each other. Carolyn starts by saying, it's all out there now, so I guess we're just going to have to keep going. Rob said, did we not say that we were going to, like, you voted for Danielle, and then Danielle voted for me. It's messed up, the whole thing. They were like, well, you're all paranoid, and you're coming for us. He's like, no, my paranoia was about Bob the drag queen. It's not about you guys. And so then Carolyn says, so many people came up to me, but that was yesterday. You're making up lies that I was coming for Brittany. Oh no, but that was yesterday was Danielle. So like Carolyn's like, so many people were coming up to me. Danielle was like, no, but I only did that yesterday. Like once we talked about it, I stopped coming for you, which was true. Like you could tell that Carolyn was thinking it was ongoing, whereas like Danielle had stopped. It's just that she had already said shit to like so many people that were slowly coming to tell Carolyn. And then she said, you're making up lies that I said I was coming for Brittany. And Danielle said, well, you did. You brought her up to kill her. And that's what I meant. And Carolyn was like, dude. And she goes, that does not work. Or no, I said that does not work. That does not work. Because the whole thing is like, you can't use how she said shit in the turret, because then she could use that against like 8 people that you've brought up in the turret. That just is not how that works. And so Carolyn says to Danielle,
shitty.
Right. It's like, come on, that's not the agreement. So Carolyn says to Danielle, so I'll just let her know that happened in the turret. You can't be serious. And then she said, we'll just have to go after Danielle.
Yeah. Which is like, oof. Which is kind of funny. And she smiles at her, and then Rob's face drops. If you bring it, I'ma bring it back.
Like someone was like, maybe we like something about like coming for him, and he's like, well, if you come for me, I'm coming for you. Yeah.
Right. That's sort of his thing. And then someone says there is a bunch of lies. Who says
I don't know what's happening.
They all kind of says it.
Yeah,
no,
that's the thing. All 3 of them.
You are fine. You do a great job with the notes, much better than I could do. That's for sure. So starting the next episode 7, they're genuinely gassed out in distrust of each other. They're like so done. Rob is like, this is not good. Kind of his vibe. Like, this is not how it should be. Danielle says she doesn't care who they murder, and then vetoes a bunch of people. I find her kind of exasperating. And then I think Rob said something like, "At least let me take out Derek," or something like that.
Yeah,
which
she's like, "Let me get revenge."
Yeah, I don't think it was the move. TBH, I think it was a really bad way. I don't think he should have done it. I think he was a little bullheaded about that sort of need to do that.
I was shocked.
Just made him look guilty, and he thinks he could play it off. But I'm like, you've done this enough. It just doesn't look good.
But he is also right. Like at first I was like, that's so dumb. Like, of course he's going to have to say that he was framed. But like, little does he know, like Derek like preempted that. I think he didn't give Derek enough credit for how good of a player he was. And I think that was probably part of the dynamic that part of why that went so poorly.
But like, I have to say that I was shocked, and I was like, okay, so he's just going to say he's getting framed. But like, the one thing he is right about is like, at this point, there are so many that it would look dumb because it was dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he is kind of right that at that point, when there's like 4 in a row, like, I think people would believe it's not him because it is just so dumb, and he's such a good player.
Right.
So like,
That's
I kind of understood it at the same time. He could almost like use it as an excuse to get out however he wants. But at the same time, like, the sad thing is people like Sandoval don't have that extra layer of like, but why would he do that? And therefore is like, he keeps getting out his, his enemy. So it must be him.
And then he's like, I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. Sweet baby. Not really.
And so then Brittany calls Ivor furniture at this point that gets moved from room to room, which was really mean. It
was so objectifying. Like, speaking of objectifying, like super objectifying. It was also just like, fucking funny at the same time, though, just because it was like playing it against him, just being like, yeah, huh. I was like, oh god, the show is like doing him dirty right now, but it was just so funny at the same time. Like, yeah, super shady.
You know what, though? He was sexist at the beginning in ways that I found annoying. So
I know.
I'm glad he's found a buddy in Sam. That's very cute. But yeah. They can call him furniture.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom throwing out more names. I got a bad feeling about Dylan and Derek.
Well, he had a feeling they were gone. He's like, he thought they would be evicted. Yeah. Or murdered.
Oh, so he had something there. Gabby said, I mean, Ivar, I feel like he was not going to be here yesterday. He's right there. You didn't see him? LOL. Oh my God, I'm dead. Good thing you didn't say anything bad.
Did you see that? Did you see when someone, like, she was like, I think he might be Ivar, basically. And then someone was like, do you see him? He's right there. And she was like, oh my God, I'm dead. And then he was like, well, it's a good thing you didn't say anything bad. And she was like, oh my God, I know. I was like, oh my God. She's like, oh my God, I know. She's like, I might have. I almost did.
So goofy.
I love it.
So funny. I think I saw that, but I might have forgotten it. I can't.
It was quick too. It was like super quick. It was basically the only thing that was like prior to turning out Derek was gone. It was like very quick. It turns out, by the way, like, speaking of Danielle being just like a resident sloppy player, like, okay, hi buddy. Woo. Cat on the loose. Speaking of her being the resident sloppy player, nowadays in the breakfast, she just like doesn't talk. Like, she says absolutely nothing at breakfast, which I think is also sketchy because you used to be the complete opposite. It's like, I don't know. She's just not good at thinking about what she looks like at breakfast.
No, I don't find her to be a very good player at this game up to this point. No, she's made a lot of weird choices.
Yeah, she's really not good. She is a bad player. I mean, I thought that was a solid point that Boston Rob made, where he was like, I would have taken Carolyn to the end, but Danielle's just like a bad player, like, just period. Mm-hmm. I was like, yep, yeah, we agree. We called her a resident sloppy player.
Yep. Danielle, Carolyn, I need you. I'm really sorry. So Rob in the turret, we see what he said. Rob said, I had to get rid of Derek. He forced me into protection mode. And I just think it was one too many. But you make a good point that it was so dumb. Maybe it was smart, but not for everyone.
I did still feel like he was almost not prepared for it. Oh, you know what? This is one of my segments. I'll bring this up now. So I had for my, like, the thing they should have used, the psychological concept that would have made it better, is that he should have used institutional scapegoating. So that's when you blame the institution to be able to bring yourself closer to another participant of the system or another victim of the system. And so I think he could have used this concept to cover his ass regarding Wes. So when Wes went home, we never see Rob say something like, oh, I guess I was wrong, or like, oh, just because he's a bit faithful doesn't mean I'm not a faithful too, or whatever. Like, we didn't see him cover his ass at all, which I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not explaining why that just happened? He didn't seem to care that Wes wasn't a traitor, which I was like, not great. So I was saying to myself that he had a lot of repair work to do. He didn't do any of it. And so then I thought it was clear to Derek that Rob was obviously a traitor. Sure enough, Derek tells Dylan and other people that he's definitely a traitor. So I think that what he could have done was, instead, one thing I was like, why don't you just say like, oh man, clearly I was wrong about Wes, or whatever. He didn't even do that. But at the very least, he could have done that and said like, oh wow, I guess we're both faithfuls, huh? Like, both can be true. None of it. So what I really think he should have done, which would have been even smarter, is to say, oh my gosh, like, I guess that shows that the show, because I think Derek's faithful too, so I guess that shows that the show purposely put all three of us on the same level playing field by putting all of us as faithfuls and telling you guys that one of us could be a traitor, so that all three of us were like on our heels trying to like survive, and that like because we're all the best from our respective shows, so like clearly they didn't pick one of us to have a better time than the others. And it like put all of us in a bad position that they said that to you. Like, just use that. Like, blame the producers, explain the producers' thinking. Something.
Right. Yeah.
So I think institutional scapegoating could help.
He doesn't apologize for himself enough or think through like how the things that he did could be portrayed by others. And I think that's part of his patriarchal shit too, of like, I don't need to explain myself. And it's like, sometimes you do actually.
Sure. Yes, exactly. Yeah. In fact, it would help a lot, and maybe you could learn a little bit about that. Maybe Amber would be grateful for that as well. Who knows?
I'm sure she would. So Rob and Dylan chat, and Dylan tells Rob that Derek named him and Brittany. I think he even said, like, I have some tea for you. Like, he was excited as a way to get him closer to Rob. Exactly. Tom Sandoval follows them and gives Rob zero slack whatsoever, shrugging at Dylan's recounting of Derek naming Brittany and why he thought she was one, and straight up calling Rob out before vigorously accusing Rob to Dylan right after Rob leaves the room, to which Dylan goes, okay. He's not really interested. Okay. Yeah.
As he was doing it, I was like, no one trusts Sandoval, so it's not going to matter, because like no one trusts him at this point. It won't be because of him, that they get him out. I actually didn't think he was going to go yet. I did not think Rob was going to go, because I was like, it definitely won't be Sandoval either way, because no one trusts him at this point. But or they just think he like throws out everybody. I do think it was so funny how he like gave zero fucks about what that looks like. Like, if you think Rob's a traitor, shouldn't you not like be so like to his face at least? And he just was like such a mess.
I think he just is like a mess, not strategic at all. Just out there doing his thing.
Just trying to repair his image, right? Which he ends up owning at some point later in the episode. So then we have this challenge, which I loved. And you brought up the Boston Rob Sierra pair, and that was a big part of why I loved it too. But it was a great challenge. I thought it was wonderful. So they have to partner up. Dylan partners up with Tom Sandoval, whom he trusts at least to be a faithful. Right? They all agree on that. Dolores is paired up with Chriselle, whom she finds to be very honest. And then it turns out Boston Rob and Sierra are together. And then Sam and Ivar are together. And I think I'm missing one. Oh, Brittany and Danielle are together. So the Big Brother girls. So each pair played against one other pair in a game involving holding hands inside a glass box while Alan put his quote-unquote gifts in the box one at a time, which started with like millipedes and then scorpions. Those scorpions were gross. I've never seen that kind of scorpion before.
Yeah. It was
and
wild.
Then they were like, oh, so gross. And then there were mealworms and cockroaches. And then they were like dumped on their heads at first. And then they were part of a tiebreaker, but they also got a huge snake put around their necks. So the point with the pairs was that, with the quads, which is like two pairs playing against each other, was if one of the pairs of the quad dropped out, the other pair automatically got shield. And the pair that dropped out would automatically be up for elimination for murder. And right away, within mere seconds before a single thing hit their hands, Chriselle dropped out. So that meant that Dolores was pissed, like clearly so pissed. You saw Chriselle trying to like check in with her and like see if she could get her to, not having it. Nope. And then Chriselle ended up making a joke about how it was worse than her first wedding, so making fun of her first wedding, and that made Dolores start laughing, which was cute. But yeah, so they were the only pair. It turned out the only pair to drop out. All of the rest of them lasted the whole time, which is so shitty because Dolores was indeed quite pissed, but that makes it worse for sure that everyone else made it happen. So all pairs last, which means that then the other two quads are forced to play a tiebreaker. And in that case, they had to find a ring from within the pile of mealworms and cockroaches and whatever the fuck. So Ivar and Sam won for their quad, and Brittany and Danielle won from their quad, which meant Carolyn and... Did I miss them, by the way, too? I think I might have left them out. Carolyn and Gabby were also a pair. But yeah, so they were up for elimination. And so was the pair playing with Danielle. What am I thinking of? Who? Sam and Ivar were playing it. Oh, yeah, so was Dylan and Tom Sandoval. They were also up for Elim. So kind of a fun challenge. I enjoyed it. There were some great shots. Like the shot I was saying earlier about like Sam and Ivar like laughing with each other as like all these mealworms getting dropped on their head. And Oh, that was so
cute.
funny. It was so cute. And then like Dylan talking Sandoval through it, and then Rob talking Sierra through it. Just like, ugh. And then Gabby and Carolyn talking each other through it, even though they both were. And Gabby kept saying, "It's okay to be afraid. Just let the fear out."
Yeah.
And then saying like "fuck you" to Alan. It just, it was such a hoot. What a great challenge.
It was really cute. Yeah, very relational to see people like interacting with each other and helping each other out. It was very pro-social, which not all of these challenges are.
Exactly, dude. It was so pro-social. I love that. Yeah. Such a delight. So then in the post-challenge scheming, we learned that Boston Rob and Brittany's names are the only ones flying around. Basically, because Dylan told Boston Rob that Brittany could be a traitor, I think that gave Boston Rob a potential route. I immediately was like, don't go there, because I really didn't think that would go well. The other thing was that Dylan's reason and Derek's reason, therefore Dylan's reason, which Dylan just went around and told everybody, but Derek's and Dylan's therefore reason for why Brittany was a traitor was because she protected Boston Rob because Boston Rob was a traitor. So like using that when he wanted to protect Boston Rob, using the fact that the reason Brittany is a traitor is because she was protecting another traitor, Boston Rob, makes everyone think you're saying that Boston Rob's a traitor. Or like at least you're helping everyone know that Derek thought that. So I definitely was like, that's a bummer. It's not really helping you there. And I did like, I'll talk about that after in a minute. But so Rob's excuse is that he would be dumb to make the target on him bigger by murdering Derek. Great point. Brittany became aware that she's on the block. So I had this as sloppy play number 2, which is that the women that she usually chit-chats with were all like not looking her in the eye when they were talking before the round table. And Brittany became acutely aware of the fact that she was clearly in trouble because none of the women would look at her suddenly. And she was like, we always talk about everything and share everything. And so this was like a classic Big Brother indicator. On Big Brother, like whenever somebody's in trouble, they can like tell because no one wants to look them in the face. And it just immediately they're like, I'm in trouble. So it made complete sense to me that Brittany immediately was looking for that. And I thought that was kind of sloppy on their part. Like they probably should have still figured out how to talk to her without it looking like they were going to vote for her. But they ended up all voting really for Sandoval anyway. So because we now go into the round table where it's really clear it's either Boston Rob or Brittany going. Brittany is so effing convincing. So I put her as a strategic player. I thought she did a great job. When she was saying, she was like, this is a misfire. I was just like, yeah, dude, sick. I was like, this is way too convincing. Rob's fucked. God bless. And I knew that he was like, I even felt like he knew he was fucked because at the end when he voted to get Brittany out, even in his speech for why he chose Brittany, it was like so haphazard. Like he even like as the way he was talking was so defeated. He was like, yeah, and it was just obviously a traitor move. Like, I don't know, it just was so rote and like defeated. So I feel like he knew too. She was super convincing. So because of that, a bunch of people do throwaway votes, and primarily they're voting for Tom. Like I think Dylan voted for Gabby as a throwaway, which I was like, lay off. Like, why are you going for Gabby? Like,
right.
But
don't come for Gabby.
Why her? The number of people who did a throwaway vote for Tom was actually like kind of fun because it almost could have been Tom because so many people did throwaway voted for him.
I genuinely thought I still didn't think that Boston Rob was going to go. I thought he would get through one more and then one more person wouldn't be a traitor and then they'd go for him. I was surprised when it went his way, but yeah, because there was just a lot of random voting, but then it started to pick up steam. And
I think what screwed him is that both Danielle and Carolyn voted for him to go, and that was rough. And I think also Sam and Ivar voting for him, they had previously voted to keep him, and in this case they voted for him. So I think that those 4 in particular really sealed the deal, obviously because that's like most of the votes for him, but those were all people who previously had his back. So he gets the most votes by far, including those 4 and Tom Sandoval, of course. But of course, like our particular note is Danielle and Carolyn voting for him, which is just like an ugh. I loved what he said to camera at this point. He says, he goes, I understand why Carolyn was scared of me, but I would have rode with her to the end. And then he goes, Danielle, however, was a bad player. He was like, just bad in general, bad player, da-da-da. And I was like, not wrong. Those are all things that are true. And we agree with you repeatedly.
Mm-hmm. And I think Carolyn and Boston Rob have actually been on the same page about a lot of things. And I think what Carolyn has working for her is that people underestimate her. Boston Rob does not have that. People, he's automatically in the spotlight. But I think Carolyn's playing a really savvy game, even with like being buddy with Danielle right now, knowing that she probably still doesn't trust her, but knowing that it's good for her game to kind of just be on Danielle's team at this point. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was just going to agree with you about like she's under the radar. He doesn't have that, but he kind of almost has the opposite, where people think he's such a good player that if he makes a stupid move, people will think he isn't, like they won't think he did that, which is kind of using it the opposite route of that, which is pretty smart, honestly. But I also was just going to say here that something I meant to bring up earlier was that my psychologist one, my one about like if producers were psychologists, was when Carolyn says to us at one point, what happens if the traitor, Boston Rob did, when they couldn't agree about whom to send home, they ended up sending home Derek. Boston Rob said to us, to our camera, he said, what happens if the traitors can't agree? And on the challenge, if the people in power can't agree, they're the ones who are at risk. And I think if the producers were psychologists, they might do that here too, because that's really interesting. I like that like puts the pressure on them to agree, first of all. But second of all, how fun that it like flips it on its head if they can't agree with each other and make it work. So I thought if producers were psychologists, they would have a sort of plan for if traitors can't agree, and that it would be juicy.
Ooh,
I thought that if they didn't agree, right? And I thought if they couldn't agree, it was just going to be that no one went home, which I was like, that's a bummer. But we don't know even still, because they did end up agreeing on Derek. So, yep. So then, you just did your segment for that, right? About Carolyn being scared?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So then the very last thing on this page, which I also have a segment for, we both do, which will be fun. The very last thing on this page is that Tom is so fucking jazzed with himself. Like he turns around, like as soon as Boston Rob goes home, everyone's like jumping up and down and hugging each other. Clearly, like Danielle and Carolyn have to act like they're shocked and excited. But like Tom literally was like, see, and like honestly, no one's really giving him credit. Like even when they sit back down and Dolores is like, I have to give you guys credit. Rob was like, thank you. I mean, not Rob. Tom was like, thank you. Like, like he like really took that on as credit for him. I also felt like Rob was like really humble when he left. Like he was really sweet and cute about it. Like I thought he didn't come for anyone else. He wasn't rude. He wasn't bitter. Like I thought he did a great job. And I thought he was great in his testimonial. He was like, I did the best I could. This is what happened. So I thought he was great. And it kind of made Tom being so fucking jazzed a little bit more silly looking.
Embarrassing.
Yeah. But yeah, tell me your segment and then I'll do mine.
I actually had it as a socio-political, I'm realizing, which I guess it is. I think for me, him being so jazzed about being right, I think he has, and this made me feel a little sorry for him, has felt so like put out by so many people. Like he's a punching bag, essentially. And he's a punching bag because of his actions. And he does double down an awful lot in ways that are cringeworthy, beyond cringeworthy, harmful. And I couldn't help but feel a little sorry for him in this moment when he was so excited to be right, because it just feels like for him, he doesn't feel like people take him seriously, probably because they don't. But there was something in that felt socio-political in given everything that, has happened over the last two years with him and Ariana and stuff like that. Scandal of it all. Exactly. It is definitely sociopolitical because it's like in our zeitgeist to be talking about him as like, or for him to be the punching bag in our conversations. And again, like you said, for good reason, frankly. But I will say what I did for this was I did your psyche is showing, because when he a little bit later, I actually like paused it, went back to it a little bit later when he said, I can die happy now because people, oh wait, did I put that in here? Because I could wait to say that. No, okay. I didn't put it in here. So a little bit later, he says to the camera, he said, to me, this was about, and he's talking about the show. He said, to me, this was about proving my worth to myself and others. So if I die here today, I die a happy man. And it was just like so childlike and in some ways endearing, but in other ways just sort of like, oh, bud, like it was clear it was because of the Rob vote. And my AirPod just died. I don't know if this one's working again. Maybe I'll try this one. Okay, this one has a little juice left. Sweet.
So he said, so to me it was like clear it was about the Rob vote, and I just wanted to be like, dude, like people even voted for you just to like not vote for Rob. Like I don't know if I'd be like super jazzed like that. And I also think people didn't vote or didn't. They weren't really impressed by Sandoval. They sort of were like, right, you finally got it right. You know what I mean? It's sort of like if you keep throwing spaghetti at the wall, eventually it's going to stick. And I think that's sort of what people thought about him. So that just also made me feel like he was sort of like pitiable. Like I take pity on him. You know what I mean? Like. And I say that with reason. Like, I do have compassion for him, too, to be fair. But I also do feel like he's a bit of a dick. Like, the way he treated Ariana. And then, like, the fact he was going to sue her. And, like, just all the things that happened after that were so messy. And, like you said, he's doubled down. I don't think he understands at all the part he played in it at all. Like, the way he's talked about it over time has been really dark. The way he's come for her mental health has been dark. So, like, there are things that I really won't get over. But I think he's fine. Like I said earlier, like, he is very good at protecting his ego. So he will be fine. But I definitely think in terms of his psyche showing, it really spoke to how unworthy he feels and how low self-worth he had, how low his self-worth was following everything that happened with Ariana, that he like wanted this show to show that he literally said proving my worth, which I think as a expression was sad. And again, like I have both like pity and compassion for him. And also was still kind of like, this is kind of embarrassing at the same time. I don't know. The whole deal. It was a lot of feelings I was having, but certainly it said a lot about how he has been feeling about himself in the last couple years or so. Year.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that, the naming of multiple emotions, because it was a little embarrassing and kind of funny and kind of sad. It was just a lot of different things. Yeah.
And I think that's it for my part there.
Oh, right. So now we go to the round table, traitors kill face to face.
I don't know what round table is. That's a mistake. Just traitors kill face to face. No, don't you be. Don't you be, ma'am.
I will not in this instance, I suppose.
And I will not either. I normally would say I'm the one who should be apologizing, but I'm not even going to apologize either because I know you'd be like, don't you be either. So no one is sorry. Just a mistake.
No, indeed. And we don't actually know who they choose, but I think they're standing at the altar and like maybe saying some things about themselves as like I don't know, a speech to keep me around or something.
Yeah, they're all like, you better come for me. Like Dolores was like, you better come for me now because I'm just getting hot. I was like, okay.
Amazing.
That's funny. And that was when Tom said the thing too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then something like you were too faithful about Dylan, which is funny.
Well, so that was what the traitors said. So most of what we're seeing is like the people talking about themselves, like to the altar. Like basically the whole point is like they're standing at the altar, facing the altar, and when they turn around, some of them are going to, or like one of them is going to see the real traitors because the traitors are told they have to kill face to face. It's only Carolyn and Danielle left, and they're going to have to walk down the aisle and kill somebody face to face. So when they turn around, one of the people turning around is going to see them, but we see them all turn around. We just don't see who sees them. And prior to when we see them turn around, we see them talking to themselves at the altar, which I thought was an interesting take. Like it was kind of a religious nod, like to this idea of like talking to God, or like because it was basically a chance for them to monologue. But then the one thing we saw that the traitor said, this was during the preview, so that was actually just at the end of the episode. But during the preview, we see Carolyn say to whomever they chose, "You were just too faithful. We had to kill you." So that made me think it was Dylan.
That would be so sad.
I know.
Because
he's like very faithful. I think so is Tom Sandoval, but I don't think they'd say that to him unless they felt bad, I guess. But
they might say it to Dylan, though.
Oh, I know.
Oh, all right.
I also think it's Dylan. Pointless. Like, why take him out? Hasn't made like very many good judgments. I don't know. Like, who cares?
Exactly. And like eventually maybe the case could be made that he has a lot of power in this game and that he might be a traitor. And he was so
and they could make him a traitor.
Rob, who turned out to be a traitor. Like that would be a mistake.
I know. I can't believe that they haven't. Like, that was what I was also thinking. I was like, wow, I almost think they could go for Dylan now. People could think Dylan was a traitor because he was so hard to protect Rob, but he was clearly like so heartbroken that he was wrong about Rob. I think people will probably believe him. He's like pretty authentic. So I think probably people believe he's a faithful. But that's why I also think because they'll get to choose a new traitor soon, I think. Usually they get to choose a new one when one goes home. So yeah, I'm excited. So they might get to choose one, which means they might choose, I thought they should choose Dylan because everyone trusts he's faithful. So he'd be a good like undercover cop, but Not if people think he's a traitor. Yeah.
This is true. Womp womp. Oh, well, we covered a lot today. My goodness.
We sure did. Thank you for those who stuck with us. Little kitty. So we see a little kitty on our video version. And you can check us out on social medias at dr.realitytv, REALITV. That's TikTok. On our Instagrams, we are at Dr. K Pods and at Dr. Ray Pods, respectively, if you were to say me and then Dr. Ray. And then we are also on at Reality Test Pod for our YouTube channel, and just Reality Test Pod is our Facebook page. And our email is realitycheckpodding, PODDING, @gmail.com. We're also on Patreon, last thing, which is patreon.com/realitytest. And you can also like search us on Patreon. You can search us, but you just want to put the @ before you put reality test. And just a reminder that this time next week, if we have 20 members, then we will continue doing something. So like the main thing is we're going to continue potting no matter what, but certain things that we're putting time and energy into, just like we might need to check ourselves, because it's like a lot of work for not any sort of like remuneration, including for our sweet baby angel who's currently sick, also our sweet sound connoisseur. So like that would be great if we could pay connoisseur, because he's given us good quality sound all this time. So please, thank you. And then by the end of February, if we have 50 members, then we will give $10 a month to the ACLU. I'm going to say at least a year. I say we do that for at least a year. I'm really down with that. I think $10 a month is the least we can do, and we'll happily do that for a year if we can get to 50 members by the end of February. That said, thank you again to Daisy D. Not really, that's not her last name, but I like calling her Daisy D. Thank you, Daisy Faulkner. And you keep getting shout outs every time because you are a first member. And also Jerry Lawrence. I said Jerry something last time because I could not remember the last name, but I looked it up this time. Jerry Lawrence, thank you for being our second member. You both are a hoot and a riot. Jerry Bear, cute, love. That'll be our nickname for you, because our top 2 Patreon members get nicknames, and that's how we're doing it.
Why the heck not? And don't forget to download us. We've been getting a lot more downloads lately. And I think we could get even more, because we know that there's folks listening who are not downloading, and it could really help us out.
Yeah, throw a couple downloads down on your phone and delete them afterwards if you'd like. But just as long as you download them, that can help us get some ads at some point. We did get one ad, which we'll be able to start. I think maybe it's already on this episode. Is it on this episode, Dr. Ray?
It is. Yes, it is indeed. It will be once our connoisseur does it.
Thank you, connoisseur. And thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, rating, and reviewing. We have some fun reviews, I had to say. I've really enjoyed our reviewers, so thank you all for that as well. And what a joy. What a joy, Dr. Ray, it has been, again, to spend this time with you. This was a long ep. Thank you all for listening. And we'll see you next session.
Bye.
Bye, baby.